Hey, we are two Star Wars nerds, and we're back with another Star Wars wisdom talk. We have a lot of fun with this series, and I think at the end of the day, we enjoy it. So we're going to keep doing them. Yeah, they're great, but we're talking about quotes from Star Wars and really if giving what wisdom we have to hopefully impact the rest of your day so that it's not just entertaining for a few moments, but that it can actually translate into the rest of your life. So this quote here, this is from season 5, episode 18, The Jedi Who Knew Too Much. That's not the quote. Yeah, imagine that. Okay, here's the quote though. It says, courage begins by trusting oneself.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and this is obviously from the Clone Wars animated series from the beginning there. And something that I have thought about with this, I'm 29, you're 30, we are
old.
I think we're in the prime of our lives. I think we're just entering
We're over here
it.
complaining about our backs
I
hurting.
know. Well,
it's late.
yeah. But I don't think we're old. But I hear this a lot. We talk to a lot of people in their late 20s or their mid 20s, early 20s, and a lot of people I've noticed have this idea of success that is measured. I don't know. It's measured by things, by material possessions, or it's measured by achievements, all these different things, and they're like, oh, I should have had this many followers already, or I should have had this kind of a house, this kind of a job, all this stuff, right? And usually what ends up happening is they think it's over, right? I've missed it. And I just remember one day talking, it was as if something literally just dropped into me. And I was talking with somebody, and they're an athlete, and I said, hey, if you're in the first quarter of the game and you're down in points, do you give up? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so why are you giving up now? Let's say you live to be 100 years old.
Right.
You're 25. What? You just finished your first quarter. You're not even at halftime yet. You can't even stop to reevaluate. You're just getting going. And really, with this quote, courage begins by trusting yourself. I think we need to trust the process of our lives. We need to trust this development, because then we'll have the courage to take on things that I think bring success, taking risk, and actually looking something in the face that is intimidating, something that you're called to do, and conquering that. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be in the spotlight or you're going to have millions of dollars flowing in from this adventure, but that for me, I think there just needs to be a readjustment of our view of success, especially in Western culture, but then just this ability to just trust that here's the thing, it doesn't matter if you're in the first quarter or if you're in the last quarter and there's minutes left on the scoreboard.
A lot can happen in minutes.
Yeah, and why don't you share this quote? I have a closing story that'd be cool in those last minutes, but why don't you share some thoughts before that?
I think what's really important, and we talk about it a lot in our wisdoms, and you kind of brought it up, it's redefining what success is. Yeah. And success isn't how much money is in your bank account. Success isn't how big your house is, how many cars you have, the typical American dream. Success is so much more than that, and really we've talked about this before too, it's legacy. What do you want to be remembered for when you're no longer here? What do you want people to remember you by? I think to have a legacy, you have to take risks. You have to trust yourself to move forward even when it's scary to do big things. And just have that 20 seconds, 10 seconds of insane courage and watch everything change in a moment. And I've noticed in my own life too, things can be scary, new things, new opportunities, they can be scary, but when you take that step, that fear goes away. That courage comes. So if you stand still, you're like paralyzed, but if you move, even in fear, courage comes. And there's a difference between being paralyzed and moving and not letting fear get in your way, but moving anyway and then receiving that courage. And so I think this is a really good quote, that courage begins by trusting yourself. You have to trust what you believe you've been called to, why you're put on this earth, and you have to take sometimes crazy, in our eyes, steps to see those things come to pass. You have to put in the work. You have to do what's going to be hard, and know that once you take that first step, that fear is gonna slip further and further away. I know when we were going through this quote, this is one that really jumped out at you. So you have, obviously it's a lot more personal to you, but that's my little bit that I have to add to it.
No, and I think that's so great because, 30 years from now, nobody's going to remember the commission check you got, 100 years from now, nobody's going to care about the shout out you got,
right.
So if that's your...
No one's going to care about your sub count. No one's going to care about your followers, your likes. None of those things matter.
Yeah, and if that's a measure of success, it's going to be a rude awakening when you're old. And I know I've thought about this, and maybe it's morbid, but I've thought about, like, what do I want people to say at my graveside? Like, what do I want people to say about me? And if it was like, oh, he was just all about the money, or he was just all about playing it safe,
right?
It's like, no, that's not the stuff I want. There's certain things in my life I want said about me, and everything is going to filter through that. And it takes time to find that. But the story I love this story. So when we were dating, we met in high school, different high schools, different walks of life, totally, but met at a movie theater we worked at. And I was kind of the loser bum, and you were the head cheerleader, like, score. That was pretty cool. But you being an athlete, I remember there was this huge rivalry between these two football teams, these two high schools. And I didn't go to either one, but you went to one of them. And so I remember going to, like, a big game on the shared field. Yeah,
we had to share a home field, so it was always a big deal when we were playing each other, because it's both of our home fields, so it was awkward for one team at the end of the night. Yeah, and it got crazy, like, tons and tons of people at this football game, and I'm just kind of like a bystander. Like, I'm not really for either team. I didn't really care for the game. And last quarter, like, the scores are tight, and it looks like her school's winning, crushing it, right? We're ready to rush the field. Yeah, you guys were lined up. You guys were yelling, getting all crazy, like, saying, "This is our house." Yeah, it was pretty wild, right? And I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, what did I get into? And I still remember it so vividly. It was almost like slow motion for me. I hate this. Like, there's the snap and just a Hail Mary just at the end, right? Totally launches this football, and this unassuming player catches the ball and just fumbles backwards into the end zone, like no seconds left on the clock, turns the game, wins it right there, and then their team rushes out, and the other team is standing there like, we just turned around and went home. What just happened? Yeah. Right. I actually laughed, but that's beside the point. But I think sometimes we discount ourselves. Like, even at it's never too late. Like, literally something can always turn around. Yeah. So if your back's against the wall and you feel like, oh my gosh, like, what's going to happen? Like trust in yourself and what you're called to. If you're in a mess because you made a mess, that's different. Right. But if you're like, I'm doing what I believe I'm called to do, man, anything can happen at the last minute. But hey, with that, we are two Star Wars nerds, and may the Force be with you always.